Hello and welcome back to the Master Division of the International Championship. Before my final game, the position in the standings is looking quite good for me. I have quite a big lead, but getting the promotion to Grandmaster is still not certain yet, because Vantablack, who is 7 points behind me, has still 2 games to play. In the last 4-player game that we are seeing today, I am playing against Vantablack, Majondor and Lcfyx, and if I should finish before Vantablack, then it's guaranteed that I will finish first in the group. But if Vantablack should manage to finish before me and also get a strong result out of the 4-player game where I'm not involved, then he could still also grab the first spot of that Master Division, meaning, it would be quite nice if I should manage to finish before Vantablack here, but even if I don't, at least I still have some hopes that maybe he doesn't get an ideal result in the last game. Alright, but now without further ado, let's take a look at the final game of the season for me. Alright, I'm playing in the second position in this game, and first of all we can take a look at the leaders and wonders. And we can see that there's some science nerd in H3, there's Einstein, we have Bill Gates, there's also the spaceflight, the Manhattan Project, and the internet, also the internet together with Pierre. We have Chaplin as the one theater leader, there's also no Hollywoods, not a lot of synergy for that in H3. We have Gandhi to potentially hide behind, also Churchill and the Manhattan Project need to be considered for the military, then there's also Mandela. In H2 we have a bunch of strong wonders, Harvard College, Railroad, Ocean Liner Service and Suez Canal. Ocean Liner Service is there together with Maria Theresa, but there's no James Cook for the Suez Canal. There is James Watt for the Railroad and to catch up in economy. We have a bunch of culture leaders in H2, so the culture strategy is more present there. We have Anthony Gaudi, Bach and Shakespeare, and then also 2 military action leaders with Catherine and Robespierre. We have 1 military action leader in H1 with Jan Žižka, Genghis Khan, Nostradamus can help with the strength, Isabella, Eleanor and Columbus could all be part of setting up a colonization game, and then there's Gutenberg but no Leonardo. We have Universitas but no Silk Road. We have all of the wonders that give a happy face or ignore unhappy workers in H1, Forbidden City, St. Peter's Basilica and the Great Wall, and also Great Wall and the Magic Castle are there, so some additional ways to get some additional strength. And Lcfyx is playing in first position, he just takes the pyramids here, maybe could have also taken the engineering genius, but rather wants to have a strong wonder for himself. With that I think I have a very solid pick for myself. It happens sometimes when playing in second position that there are just that many strong cards on the first row that you will be able to just take 2 strong cards, and I think that's the case here. I will be able to get the engineering genius, I can take it together with Alex or together with the Stonehenge, but I went with the Stonehenge here as I don't like Alex that much, and maybe if I get Alex there's still a chance that I could get Colossus, and Colossus is not too bad, but I rather went for the Stonehenge here, a very solid wonder, and getting that together with the engineering genius I think is quite a strong start. It's a bit unclear what chances I have for leaders that I can take. Alex will definitely be gone, Homer could be available, wouldn't be the ideal combination, but if I get him for 1 could still be somewhat fine, and the other leaders are all still in the deck, but it could happen that actually a lot of cards are taken from the row, because the 1 card that is here on the discard spot is the Patriotism, which maybe won't even be picked, so there could be a lot of new cards revealed, and with 5 leaders still about to be revealed, maybe there's a chance that also one of the new ones could even drop down to 1 civil action for me. Majondor goes for the library and Alex. And Vantablack takes the rich land and the urban growth, basically getting something equivalent to an engineering genius. Not the greatest start for him, but taking Colossus or Mare plus Patriotism is maybe also not the best, so I guess he just didn't have the greatest options here, and with that there will actually be 8 from the 9 new cards revealed. And I was a bit happy to see that 2 leaders are actually revealed that might at the end be an option for me, Aristotle and Sun Tzu. If Lcfyx takes one of those, the other will still be available for 1 civil action for me. I was also interested to see which leader Lcfyx is committing towards. He builds a mine, increases his population, and he is willing here to take Aristotle for an additional civil action. Certainly a nice pair with the pyramids. I also actually like Homer with the pyramids quite a bit, so maybe I would have also just gone with him, but Aristotle is maybe a bit stronger, and in first position at the next turn sometimes there's not the most useful stuff to do anyway, so I guess that's a fair choice. That means that for my turn, I have 2 leaders available for 1 civil action, Homer and Sun Tzu, and a relatively strong one available for 2 civil actions, Boudica. It was, however, relatively quickly clear for me that I don't want to pay an additional civil action for Boudica here, because it could very well happen that Vantablack goes for Sun Tzu then as his leader, meaning that I would play with Boudica against Sun Tzu and Alex, and while sometimes that can still be fine, I don't think it's strong enough then to take Boudica for an additional civil action, so it was rather a decision for me between Sun Tzu and Homer. And no, I mean, for Sun Tzu there are some synergies in the game: Jan Shishka, Genghis Khan, Columbus, Suez Canal for a colonization payoff. Maybe I should just go for Sun Tzu here. I do think it would be a very valid choice, and I also went for Sun Tzu more often, and I appreciate him a bit more. But I think I'm also a little bit higher on Homer than maybe other players. Homer and Stonehenge is not the ideal combination, but the additional happy face from Homer will still get useful at some point, and getting that in addition to some resources for the military, which almost always are needed in 4-player games, I think is still worth quite a bit, and also worth the civil action that you lose when replacing him. So I actually made a call here to go for Homer, build a mine and increase my population. Now if I would have gone for Sun Tzu, then I and Majondor would have had a strength leader, making maybe Boudica a bit weaker for Vantablack. But the thing is, now that I take Homer, it very likely makes the difference between Boudica staying on 2 civil actions for him or not. So even with me going for Homer, he can't cheaply go for Boudica at his turn. So no. It was a close call. I think maybe a lot of players would go for Sun Tzu here, and I do think that would be a perfectly fine call, especially with the synergies being present in the game. But I actually, at the end, went for Homer, as no, I think, especially in 4-player games, he is quite a strong leader. I draw some cards. I was happy to already have a tactic. Majondor elects Alex, builds a mine, increases his population, takes the frugality. As you can see, Boudica stays on 2 civil actions now. And Vantablack is not willing to pay an additional civil action for one of his leader, and instead goes for Sun Tzu. Starts with building the second lab. He has basically additional resources in hand, so I think it makes sense to basically use the urban growth as an additional science, to then use the rich land as an additional resource when building the 3rd mine. He doesn't take the Colosseum, maybe he wants to wait for the Michi Castle that's coming down the row. Lcfyx at his turn just elects Aristotle and takes the Knights for 3, which is expensive, but it's a Sun Tzu game, Shishka's in the game, so probably it's just safer to have the Knights available for yourself, and while he isn't building the second lab, at least he can now finish the pyramids, which with having Aristotle is probably better anyway. Now it's my turn. I build my second lab. And then I have 3 civil actions to spend, maybe not the most exciting options. I think there's one that I also went for that I think is fine, still somewhat expensive, but fine, but taking a bunch of yellows would feel quite bad, especially with a 4-step wonder. Printing press I don't want to go for. And so at the end I just built a lab and took the monarchy for 3. With the Stonehenge I know now that I have something to invest my science into. Potentially I could already develop the monarchy at the next turn if there will be a science development revealed. And then I can build some steps, or even without the science development, I, with the Engineering Genius, can build 3 steps of the Stonehenge guaranteed, which already is enough to develop the monarchy at the next turn. So I pay quite a bunch of civil actions to take it, but it will also give me the civil action back very quickly, and also the 3rd military action I think is nice to have in a game with Sun Tzu, where potentially there could be some military pressure, and yeah, so I think that's probably the best option here, even though it's expensive. I draw another copy of Medieval Army, knowing that my opponents won't have access to it, and then I also draw a defense card, which is nice. No event to seed yet. Majondor uses Alex, starts building the library, doesn't want to build a second lab yet, but gets rewarded in some sense with taking the urban growth so that he can build it for cheaper, maybe potentially already the next turn. He lets the Michi Castle stay in 2 civil actions for Vantablack. Let's see if he still has the intention to take it. He seeds, the development of religion is revealed, which I was not too happy to see, because I'm actually the only player without free population. Then again, I have Homer plus the Stonehenge, so I will have 2 happy faces, and with that I probably don't need a religion anyway. would still be nice, I would still take it, but I maybe can also just put a population elsewhere, but of course I would have liked it if maybe some of my other opponents also would have missed out on it. As you can see, Vantablack is actually willing to take the Meiji Castle here for 2 civil actions, increases his population, goes very low into consumption, but he wants to build his 3rd mine and take the free religion, and then that's basically necessary. Draws a bunch of cards, Lcfyx can finish the pyramids, and takes the alchemy for 2, just wants to make sure that he can invest into something nice economically. Now it's my turn, I can't use my politics phase, and then I thought about going for some turns where I maybe just build some steps, get out of corruption by increasing my population, and then take something like cultural heritage, but very quickly it came clear to me that the most clean turn is just to build 3 stages, develop the monarchy, and then increase my population to get out of corruption. I could also not increase my population, it basically would only cost me 1 food, but I don't think those cards are worth it to take even only 1 food corruption. And also now I have a free population for potential development of warfare, so I think that's just the cleanest turn available for me, as the cards that I can take for 1 civil action are not the most exciting. I draw some cards, actually a bunch of colonies, so Columbus could be an interesting option now. Also I have knowledge about the Dark Ages. Majondor this turn finishes the library, there have been no additional resources revealed yet, so he can't also build a lab with the urban growth. Instead he interestingly grabs 2 frugalities, and together with the additional yellow token from Alex, that will mean that he will have a lot of population to work with. Is willing to take both of those over the cultural heritage. Vantablack seeds, starts putting events into the deck, the development of markets are revealed, he takes additional resources, which I think makes sense with his plan of building the Meiji Castle, and then he goes for an alchemy upgrade. There would have been some interesting cards to take for him for 1 civil action, but just getting the economy going is probably also not bad. Lcfyx seeds and opens the development of warfare. He can't take advantage of that. I have a free warrior with Homer, of course, it's not that good, or I could have built a warrior relatively cheap anyway, but it's still better to take it than to build it with Homer, of course. And Lcfyx then increases his population 2 times, builds a 2nd lab, interestingly. He is in a position where maybe he could have aimed towards building an alchemy directly, or maybe just upgrading to an alchemy this turn and then building the 2nd alchemy directly at some point to save a civil action. But it looks like he wants to do it differently. Maybe he wants to develop the monarchy earlier, which he couldn't have done if he goes for the alchemy now. And civil actions he has quite a lot anyway. This turn I don't push. I don't really want to commit to any of those colonies without knowing if I maybe get a fitting leader for them, or maybe the cartography. In Dark Ages I also didn't want to push into the deck yet. And then at the turn I start my turn by finishing the Stonehenge, which helps me a lot to get out of corruption. And this turn I think I actually have quite a bunch of options available. There are some interesting cards available for 1 civil action, 2 strong yellow cards with the breakthrough in the Richland, the Swordsman, which is not ideal. I have the medieval army tactic, but I could even think about just taking and developing the Swordsman, making it that I can start spending the resources of Homer. I could also not develop the Swordsman yet, but take the Swordsman, increase my population, and take the Great Wall, maybe hoping that at some point I will get an infantry tactic, or I could even use the medieval army tactic with Genghis Khan, and then I would get a strong setup. But for now I don't need the happy face from the Great Wall, which maybe makes it a tiny bit weaker. And yeah, it just felt a little bit too costly maybe, but it could certainly be an interesting option. I think in a 4-player game having the Great Wall is not bad. I have already gotten the free warrior, so I have at least 2 infantry units, but without a fitting tactic it just didn't feel good enough for me. And then there's the Iron for 2 civil actions, certainly also an interesting option. And even in the 3 civil action area there are cards that could maybe at least be considered for a moment. There are the Knights that I could take to be safe for the military. It's the 2nd copy already. There is Sun Tzu in the game, and Code of Laws on top of the monarchy could be nice to have as well. And yeah, at the end I think a lot of options could be viable. I could just increase my population, take Breakthrough, Richland, and Swordsman. At the end I decided to increase my population to get out of corruption, and I take the Breakthrough in the Iron. Not a clear choice, but it allows me to invest my economy soon. I have gotten the additional science from the Stonehenge, but with investing it into the monarchy, I think the breakthrough can still be very important to have enough science to do everything that I want to do, even though, of course, the rich land could also be an interesting card for me to maybe get an iron upgrade going quicker. I also saw that Universitas coming down the road. I thought it's definitely not guaranteed that I will get it, especially Lcfyx could potentially think about taking it at his turn, but maybe I can get it and then getting into iron upgrades, finishing Universitas afterwards, I think is generally quite a strong setup. So also a reason why I maybe didn't want to commit to Great Wall necessarily. I skipped the Swordsman, which can backfire. I don't know if I get a copy of Knights. But there's still a second copy of Swordsman, and maybe if I'm just on Warriors, I can still hope to get Genghis Khan, so I felt like maybe it's somewhat justifiable not taking the Swordsman here, but I think this turn there were a lot of valid options, and maybe I could have also done something different, but here I decided to secure myself this copy of Iron. I keep the Inhabited for a potential Columbus. I keep the Medieval Army tactic. Now I actually draw the Legion tactic, so the Swordsman maybe could have been interesting, and maybe also the Great Wall. Majondor Seeds opens the development of agriculture, increases his population 2 times, 3 times. Now he can use all of those frugalities, and just increases his population of 4th time. Now he really should have had the H1 version of Maria Theresa. Yeah. A whole turn just of increasing his population, but I mean it's an efficient way of using his civil actions, so why not get him out of corruption? And yeah, he has now a lot of population to work with, which might also help him setting up a strong military, but he doesn't take a military tech for now. Reveals the fighting band tactic. Vantablack seeds and opens the development of trade routes. He takes the Swordsman, develops it, builds the Swordsman, upgrades the second lab, upgrades the other Swordsman, so he makes sure to get quite strong, which could be an indicator that there are some strength events coming. Also, interestingly, he is committing to Swordsman while the Knights are on the row as well, making it maybe more likely that an infantry tactic will be the upgraded one. Lcfyx seeds and the development of planning is revealed. The options for that are development of craft, science and settlement. Lcfyx actually takes the development of science, which allows him to take the code of laws and then still have enough science to go for the knights and actually for the monarchy. Builds a knight, takes the patriotism, builds another knight to make sure to get stronger, maybe has his own horse tactic. And I was happy to see that the knights actually dropped down to 1 civil action for me, so with that I was quite happy that I did the decision of not committing to the Swordsman. And what I also will take here is the Universitas asset. I think starting some iron upgrades, then going for the Universitas is generally quite strong. However, I won't start the iron upgrades quite yet, because the event deck has just flipped Vantablack, seeded a lot of events, put some effort into getting stronger here, and I actually have the ability to get quite strong this turn, maybe putting me in a position to potentially win some strength events. So I took the Knights, developed the Knights, and then build 2 of them, revealing the Medieval Army tactic, and then to get out of corruption I increased my population here, leaving myself the option to also go for 2 iron upgrades, which would not be a possibility if I start working on the Universitas. So I'm now at 10 strength, also maybe even a bit threatening to some opponents. Sadly I don't have an aggression to punish anyone, but I might have chances to be the strongest now for a turn cycle. I can seed at the next turn, so I could potentially profit from some strength events. What I was a little bit worried about is that we are already in the middle, or maybe even a little bit past the middle of H1 with 22 cards left in the deck, and we can only see Gutenberg on the row, and he is actually the first leader. The other 6 leaders are hiding very far in the deck, so I was a bit worried that if maybe it could get a bit unfortunate, and a lot of those leaders are revealed very late. Maybe there's actually a chance that I could still get Gutenberg at the next turn, but certainly not guaranteed. And then I was hoping that soon there will be some other leaders revealed. I discard a Legion, keep still this colony for Columbus, also the call to arms, as it should be a nice event to push, as I hopefully should be in a position to remain relatively strong. I even still have a free population that I can put it into the military at some point. Majondor builds 2 warriors, maybe responding to the pressure, which is at least a bit of an investment, also a bit of a commitment, but at least maybe it makes it that he can at least threaten to defend against an aggression. I don't have one, so I can't try it out, whether he actually has the 2 defense cards that he needs or not. Vantablack Seeds. A colony is revealed, sadly no strength event yet. I was willing to bid a knight and a colonization card, as there is a Suez Canal in the game, but it's not enough for me to win it. Vantablack instead wins it for a swordsman and a colonization card, so for winning that for 1 unit is fine, but it also means that he remains relatively weak, but also he is willing to pay some costs to make sure that he maybe isn't in danger of an aggression, and with the 3rd military action and now some additional draws from Sun Tzu, he is basically completely safe as he can defend with 3 cards. Lcfyx takes the irrigation, scoring another science with Aristotle, also takes the cartography, maybe wants to potentially be prepared for a Suez Canal game or a colony game, and then increases his population, builds a warrior, reveals the phalanx tactic for now, so is closely behind me in strength. And then with the last civil action, he takes a copy of Urban Growth. Now it is my turn. I decide to push the call to arms here. And I hit the border conflict, which I was happy to see. So I get 3 additional resources, resources that I can certainly need very much, while Majondor has to destroy something. And as you can see, I actually go for Gutenberg here. He's just available for 1 civil action for me, with all of the leaders being that late. Basically all of my opponents also are still waiting for leaders, so I think not taking one this turn would be too risky. Of course I could hope to get Columbus at the next turn or one of the others, but I might have to take one for expensive, and Gutenberg I can get now for cheap. It's of course the case that I have neither Printing Press or Alchemy available, and there's actually also only 1 copy of Alchemy left and Printing Press, but Printing Press I don't really want to go for anyway, so it's mainly about this copy of Alchemy. That is actually on the row, but the 1 player apart from me that doesn't have a copy of Alchemy already is Majondor, who's playing in front of me, and I thought it's very unlikely that he will take it for 3, as I will let it stay in the 3 civil action area, so hopefully at the next turn I can start using Gutenberg to get into Alchemy. Of course I also have the Universitas, but it can still be nice to upgrade the science even more, especially when I can just do it with some free actions and some discounts, so I thought Gutenberg can turn out to be a strong leader here for me, and I was not willing to pay additional civil actions for one of the other leaders here, especially because I have quite a lot to do this turn. I could just potentially even finish the Universitas, but I have my government form already, and I thought it's probably better to get some iron production going first. I go for 2 iron upgrades. I could even go for a 3rd one, but I instead wanted to use Homer's resources one more time and and I also take the Engineering Genius, allowing me to finish the Universitas at the next turn, and I also want to use Homer's resources one more time, building another knight, just having enough resources to finish the Universitas at the next turn, boosting my science income, and with the 2 happy faces that I have, I can commit this worker into knights and just be at 12 strength, maybe giving me chances to, for even longer, remain the strongest. And yeah, I think maybe I'm playing it a bit too greedily here though. Or maybe I didn't check enough how likely it is that the age will end, because as you can see I didn't elect Gutenberg. There are 12 cards left in the deck after my turn, 10 cards. Both Majondor and Vantablack have only 4 civil actions. Lcfyx has a lot, but he has no hand space at the start of his turn. However, both Majondor and Vantablack have no card in hand at all. Both don't have too much to do in their civilization, so they could take some cards, and Lcfyx also could still take some cards just because of his many civil actions, so it's not impossible that the age will end. And of course the players could have some motivation to end the age for me, and it would be quite bad for me if the age ends, because I would lose the happy face from Homer and I would have to disband a unit or something else again to not have an uprising. And I don't think I need to take that risk here. I, during the game, thought it should be very unlikely that the age will end, and it is, I think, unlikely, but not impossible, and I should have just done something different. One of the actions, I mean, all of the actions are quite valuable, getting the 2 upgrades going. If I miss out on one of the upgrades, I still have Corruption, the Engineering Genius to finish the Universitas. And Gutenberg doesn't do anything for me. So if the gamble goes right, I do think it's quite strong to have done it, but the consequences if it goes wrong are bigger than what I have to pay this turn to just be safe. So maybe I should have played it safe here, and now maybe I might give my opponents the chance to do something bad here. And yeah, so that was my turn. I draw a colonization card in the Reign of Terror. Majondor destroys... What did he destroy? The temple, yes. He then goes for the swordsman, getting stronger, maybe again as a reaction to my strength push, so that might do something here. Again, he is staying 4 strength behind me, and goes for another iron upgrade. Only takes 1 card from the row, thankfully not for the breakthrough, so so far it looks good, but Vantablack will actually go for Isabella, electing her, taking the masonry, taking the breakthrough, and developing the breakthrough, meaning at Lcfyx turn there will be 4 cards left in the deck, and if he manages to take 3 cards from the row that aren't in this card spot, out of the sudden I could be in big trouble, because the 8 age ends, I have uprising issues, and I lose Homer's happy face for the rest of the game. So now I was very, very worried and thought, oh my, that's actually getting a lot closer than I thought with how the age ending. So let's see what Lcfyx will do. Lcfyx starts the turn by going for the alchemy, uses the urban growth. With those 2 actions he has already made a space for 2 cards in his hand. He takes the theology, which makes sense because at the next turn he will have lost 2 yellow tokens, and if he isn't able to upgrade that religion, he will have an uprising issue. He takes Columbus. He elects Columbus, and if he should decide now to take any of those cards, then the age ends before my turn. The good news for me is that it would come at the cost of corruption, so it is a big price that Lcfyx would have to pay. Is he willing to pay it here? No, he is going for an upgrade, and probably it's right, because I think it would be a very big cost for paying. It's a 4-player game. You still can do some slightly suboptimal turns maybe to do harm to 1 player specifically, but costing basically a science and 2 resource in a game where he is relatively tight on resources and an action on something. I guess he gets the science back, but also an action on another technology, and this technology will be in the hand, so he already has quite a lot of cards in hand, might get some hand space issues, so I do think it is probably a too big cost to pay here. Maybe I also profited from Lcfyx being at the moment in the last place in the standings and not having the greatest start in the season, also when that game was still at the stage where it is at this point. So and while I had a relatively strong start, so maybe if I would have been a contender again for relegation, or if he would have been in a better position and he would be in a contender for the promotion, maybe he would have been willing to do it. But so I was extremely relieved. My gamble has gone the right way here, and I will start my turn with 1 card being left in the deck, and Homer is still there, and I can get his happy face. So I was a bit nervous when I watched the turn cycle. Alright, I start the turn by seeding the Reign of Terror. I'm still the strongest. I should very unlikely be the weakest, so I am willing to put that into the deck. The reds are revealed, which is a bit annoying. I could have increased my population, but to be honest, the population would have been unhappy anyway. So if there's no pestilence coming, maybe it's not too bad. Maybe it could even save me from a rebellion, not increasing that population. This turn I will finish the Universitas. I think a science boost to 4 is just too strong, and it's better to just upgrade a mine or something. And finishing the Universitas first also allows a cool move, because now I can elect Gutenberg, and as you can see, Homer retires and writes an epic work about the Universitas. Maybe he planned already for years to write something about the Stonehenge, probably for a very long time, but now he got some new orders and needed to write something about the Universitas, and the Universitas is now the improved wonder, so that's of course nice and something that you can't do that often. And yeah, so I think it doesn't make a difference mechanically. I think even with the St. Peter's Basilica, if I put Homer's happy face there, then it gets both happy faces get doubled, the one from the Stonehenge and the one from Homer, but it's of course a bit cooler now using the opportunity to maybe improve the Universitas. Then I have still one civil action left, and I think that one is also relatively clear. I take, first of all, the alchemy for free with Gutenberg. That's also something that I certainly want to do, and I was happy that the alchemy fell down to one civil action for me. And I was also happy that this copy of Code of Laws fell down to one civil action for me, as I at some point certainly want to upgrade my monarchy. So now that the gamble has gone the right way for me, I was relatively happy about my position. I have those iron mines, I have the universitas, I can get value out of Gutenberg, I can soon upgrade my government form up to 6 civil actions, and at the moment I'm the strength leader, so I was quite happy about my position now at the end of H1, now that the gamble has gone the right way. I draw some cards, the immigration, the uncertain borders, and the legion tactic. H2 starts. Majondor goes for Jan Žižka. My days as the strongest are now officially over, because he can go for Jan Žižka, upgrade those 2 warriors to swordsmen, and now after some time where he always needed to be afraid of potentially being in danger of an aggression, especially if he had not the 2 defense cards, now he is at 14 strength and the strongest with having Jan Žižka, and also gets 3 additional culture production, so Jan Žižka being quite strong here. Vantablack finishes the Magic Castle with only 1 civil action thanks to the masonry, has accumulated enough resources thanks to Isabella, and now takes the constitutional monarchy for 3 civil actions, which is possible thanks to finishing the Magic Castle for civil action less, and he has just enough science to develop it at the next turn, so I think that makes sense. Doesn't take the late copy of Iron. Lcfyx doesn't use Columbus yet, instead gets an open borders agreement with Vantablack. Vantablack will soon get a common, but he still accepts it, as Lcfyx also has already an additional military action anyway, and yeah, maybe Lcfyx wants to give himself the chance to draw a strong H2 colony with Columbus. To fix his happy faces, he has now to do this theology upgrade, takes the engineering genius 2, there are a lot of strong wonders as you might remember, takes the reserves for 2 civil action. That's not the most efficient action, but I guess he needs to do something here. Also, he adopts the medieval army tactic to get a bit stronger. Now it's my turn. I was still willing to push here and actually push the uncertain borders into the deck, which was not a clear call, because at the moment I'm not the strongest, but I thought it will at least be unlikely that I will be the weakest. I could have also pushed the immigration. For now, I and Lcfyx are the ones with 2 happy faces, but I felt that Majondor at his turn, or not as this next turn, he's missing resources, but soon maybe he could invest into something like organized religion, and I at the moment don't have any way to upgrade my happy faces, so I seeded the uncertain borders, as it should be at least a neutral event for me, 1 player gaining something, 1 player losing something, and I have maybe chances to get stronger again if I get Rifleman or maybe strategy, and potentially win that event even. And I was happy to see that the foray is revealed. I actually take 3 additional food out of that so that I can increase my population 1 more time. And with a free population, maybe the immigration gets a lot more safe to see it. I use Gutenberg to develop the alchemy. I think it's the best to do. It prevents me from developing the Code of Laws, but like this I can just spend the actions of Gutenberg efficiently and basically get an additional action from Gutenberg instead of the Code of Laws, and also will get the lab upgrades earlier, so more science production. After having developed the alchemy, I upgrade my mine to get out of corruption, and then with my last civil actions, I first of all take the cannons. I think just having the opportunity to take them here and having them in hand is just too strong, and there's nothing else that is more important, I would say. There's a Forbidden City which pairs nicely with the monarchy, but I don't really need the ignored unhappy workers that much at the moment. I mean, if I increase my population now I have 1, but there are also just a lot of strong H2 wonders, so I rather would wait for them. I could then take another yellow card from the 2 civil action area, but one of the reasons why I wanted to have this additional population, which could even backfire if there's a rebellion in there, but Majondor has that many unhappy workers, maybe he has knowledge about rebellion, otherwise maybe he didn't have another choice, but it would be very risky to be in a position like that if he doesn't have knowledge. The others could have seeded it, but I was just hoping that maybe it won't be in there, but it could hit me here, so it has some downsides to increase my population, but it just allows me to already spend that action very nicely going down to 0 food, so that I hopefully will have easy ways to get out of corruption, and then I just take the reserves for 1 civil action less than frugality or patriotism. I draw some cards. I was happy to see an early international trade agreement pact. Majondor seeds and opens the scientific breakthrough. The players get a very similar amount of science here. Majondor takes the organized religion and he indeed just builds one, which is now possible thanks to the foray being revealed. So I was happy that I didn't see the immigration here. Then Vantablack develops the Conmon, takes James Watt. I think James Watt has just tons of potential here for him. Something to note though is that Lcfyx at his last turn also didn't take the iron, so one copy of iron actually got discarded, meaning there are 2 copies of coal for 2 players, but Vantablack is playing in front of Lcfyx and has maybe better chances to get the first copy, and I think James Watt is just an amazing pick here, secures himself the first copy of selective breeding, and then takes a copy of knights to maybe be better prepared for the military. Lcfyx seeds, still not using Columbus, opens the Raiders, which I gladly don't get hit by. With his many science, he can now easily develop the Code of Laws, also takes a copy of Rifleman, a copy of Breakthrough, develops the Rifleman, goes for an upgrade, takes the Patriotism, plays the reserves for resources. So he is also 12 strength now. I, at my turn, offer the International Trade Agreement Pact. I am at the moment at 0 food. It would maybe just take a bit too long for the food to really be worth it, so I wanted to have the additional resources. And I offer the food to Lcfyx, who I think doesn't get a quick benefit out of it. I mean, he can go for irrigation, and maybe it helps him then. But if he doesn't, then it will just take a while until he accumulates enough food, and then the next population will even be unhappy, but probably the pact is still too strong to refuse, so I offered it to him. Also, he isn't a contender in the standings, so that also played a part. And then I use Gutenberg to upgrade 1 lab, going up to 12 science production. I can also this turn develop the Code of Laws, and gladly I still, after doing that, have just enough science after taking selective breeding and Rifleman, which I think are both just extremely strong technologies for me. I have the selective breeding, I have everything that I need for my economy to go off, and a Rifleman, just with that I have now cannons, Rifleman, knights, so I'm prepared for different tactics, and I can even use the Rifleman immediately, develop them, and go for 2 upgrades, which makes me the strongest, meaning that I'm prepared for the uncertain borders that I've put into the deck. So I was happy that I had a nice chance to use my politics phase without seeding, so that I could now use the opportunity with the Rifleman to get stronger and potentially profit from the uncertain borders. Then I get an annex, Majondor seeds, and I was extremely happy to see that the uncertain borders are indeed revealed, which also makes it that I'm not in danger of rebellion any longer, so it could even be extremely important if the rebellion is actually in the deck as well. Majondor gets something offered on the silver plateau here. He gets Robespierre and Republic, both for 1 civil actions, and despite starting his turn on 4 civil actions, he will end up playing a turn here, going for revolution, going for scientific method upgrade, taking the urban growth, taking the navigation, where he actually takes all of the 5 cards from the first row. So that's something maybe that also you don't see too often. But yeah. Also the Suez Canal will now already be in the discard spot, so either Vantablack will take it or it will be discarded. Vantablack will elect James Watt this turn. He could go for coal. Interestingly decides against it and gives Lcfyx the chance to take the first copy of coal, which could potentially backfire, but let's see how it will work out for him. Instead he goes for the selective breeding, gets out of corruption by going for 1 upgrade, takes the wave of nationalism for the military and the Suez Canal. So he maybe thought getting the food production could even be more valuable for him anyway, because he's somewhat low in population. He might need some military, maybe not immediately. He's somewhat safe with the Meiji Castle, but maybe still somewhat soon. If I have a classic army or Napoleonic army, I could soon be somewhat dangerous, especially if maybe I or one of the others get the strategy. So it could, in 2 turns or something, maybe already be quite important that he has started his food income. And at least he lets the coal stay in 3 civil actions, is willing to not take the breakthrough for that. And with that, it's at least expensive for Lcfyx to reach out to take that copy of coal. So let's see if he will do that. Lcfyx still doesn't use Columbus. It starts to feel like maybe he doesn't even have a colony, or he still has an H1 backup colony in hand and still waits for a better one. The historic territory is revealed. I have still the spare knight that isn't part of a tactic at the moment, and I was willing to bid it, and I think maybe also my colonization cards. Maybe I wasn't willing to bid them, I don't remember it, but I thought a happy face could be useful at some point, especially if I should still see the immigration. I get a bit of culture, and the uncertain borders are out, border conflict is out, foray is out, I'm still at 14 strength, so I am actually still the strongest, so I just felt I can allow myself to bid for that colony. Lcfyx takes the selective breeding, develops it, takes Maria, goes for an upgrade, and takes the breakthrough. So interestingly, both Vantablack and Lcfyx had a chance to go into coal first, but both decided for themselves that they want to get into food income first. And I mean, with Maria Theresa, that might certainly be the correct choice, but it also means that Vantablack's maybe small gamble pays off here, and he likely will be able to take that copy for cheap at his turn. Now it's my turn, I'm the strongest, and I want to see the immigration here. Now that I have the additional happy face and also potentially the ability to get more happy faces. The Reign of Terror is revealed, hitting Vantablack, which is somewhat annoying to him because he doesn't have a free population. I use Gutenberg to get one more alchemy upgrade going. Now it would be time to replace him. Actually, all of my opponents have already committed to an H2 leader, so I can relatively freely choose what I want to get. It will also depend on which leaders will be available for me. Maybe I can make Anthony Gaudi work, who is coming down the row. Otherwise, potentially if I get Bach and Opera, maybe that could be a strong game for them, and also Catherine could at least be a solid leader for me. And yeah, so I use Gutenberg's actions, still having 6 civil actions left. Maybe the Kremlin could be something to think about here, but it's still somewhat expensive. I need still to get my farm upgrades going, and with the immigration coming, it's a bit of an anti-synergy. And so instead I go for an upgrade to selective breeding, take this copy of organized religion. At some point I might still need a happy face solution, so I was just willing to pick that for one civil action. There is actually Pierre in the game, so it's not a necessary pick, but I also maybe don't have the most exciting stuff to do here. I can take the efficient upgrade, which I will do, but if I, for example, just spend my 4 actions to take efficient upgrade and Richland, then I can only use one of those cards in my next farm upgrade. Maybe I can build either an additional farm or an additional mine, or I can use the efficient upgrade later to upgrade something, so that could be an idea. But probably I would rather take efficient upgrade and frugality, which I can use for certain relatively soon. I do think that could be fine, but I felt both cavalryman and the organized religion are technologies that I might need at some point, especially as I might end up playing a culture leader. Bach and Gaudi, Shakespeare probably won't go for, and so having all of the military texts can be very helpful then to make sure that I can defend myself. So I thought that maybe the value of having those 2 texts combined is worth more than just getting one more yellow card here. I could even consider maybe taking the frugality over the efficient upgrade, but I have that 1 free population, don't have a clear way how I need more population, or it doesn't look like I need more population extremely quickly or something, and so I rather wanted to save the resources here. I draw the strategic territory, economic progress, and promise of military protection. Majondor Seeds opens the call to arms. Vantablack, it was seeded by me. Vantablack loses 2 civil actions, Lcfyx 1. Majondor gets the ocean liner service, which is strong for him, also with having the irrigation to prevent famine issues, and then goes for the navigation to potentially win some colonies, maybe also to get stronger. Vantablack Seeds opens the Grime Wave, another strength event that he gets hit by, so he got now hit by quite a bunch of stuff. But he gets the coal for cheap, can start upgrading with James Watt, goes for 1 upgrade for now, rebuilds the swordsman, and that he lost, I think, to the population loss of the Reign of Terror. Then it's Lcfyx's turn. Will he go for a colony with Columbus this turn? Actually not. He goes for an aggression, he goes for a spy, and at this point it really looks like he might have gotten very unlucky here. Maybe went for the Columbus gamble just because all of the leaders were late and Columbus was available for him. He had enough draws to make it maybe more likely that he draws a colony at some point, but he did get unlucky here, and we will see at his turn that after playing the aggression, he just replaces Columbus. So certainly quite unfortunate for him. He had even just an additional draw with the call to arms. That, of course, would have been very clutch if that one draw would have given him the H2 colony for Columbus. But yeah, he got unlucky here, didn't have a backup colony. And with that, Columbus sadly didn't really do anything for him this game. He can at least get a civil action back if you want to take a positive note out of it, but yeah, I don't think Lcfyx was appreciating that when he played his turn. He then goes for the cannons, takes the rich land, the reserves, has a lot of yellow cards in hand, upgrades a warrior to Rifleman, is now at 14 strength. With taking all of those cards, it actually makes it that Bach and Opera drop down to 1 civil action for me. I will start my turn by ceding the economic progress, which was not clear for me if I should do it. Because Vantablack will get Suez Canal, Blast can go for more coal upgrades, Lcfyx might still get into coal, but Majondor has the ocean liner service, Vantablack, if it is revealed quickly, might not be getting too much out of it, and Lcfyx also still needs some time to upgrade his mines, and I kind of wanted to see it as I'm the strongest, and after my turn I actually won't be the strongest any longer, and there could be a strength event on top. Also, it could be beneficial to move the event deck quickly, because now I have a chance to be part of the immigration. I don't really plan on building more happy faces very quickly. I mean, maybe with Bach and Opera, so I might. But yeah, still it could maybe be nice to see that event revealed quickly, but mainly because I was strongest, I thought maybe I can push, and hopefully, with having the knowledge about it, I can play also a little bit around it and hopefully at least get some solid value out of it. I did push, no strength event, but still something that is quite nice for me, even better for Lcfyx, to actually get 6 resources out of the arms industry, and with having also developed cannons, but I at least gained 4, which I also was very happy about. And then at my turn, I will start the turn by using the efficient upgrade to upgrade my second farm. I could try something with Anthony Gaudi, but I don't really need the happy face of a religion right now, and I think Bach is just quite a bit better for me, especially because he also synergizes better with Gutenberg. I can now take Bach, take Opera, but before playing Bach, I can use Gutenberg to build another alchemy, getting me out of corruption, using his action and discount one more time, and I can keep the lab as long as I think I can sustain it, but if I at some point need a happy face or think that the culture production from an opera might be needed more, I can upgrade it with Bach. So that's something that with Anthony Gaudi would be very anti-synergistic, as I would commit even more to one urban building type, so I think Bach is clearly the better choice here, and I was very happy that I found another way of using Gutenberg, so I think Gutenberg has worked out very well for me during H2. I have now 8 science production, so might even have enough to afford an H3 government form at some point. I will then switch to Bach. I could even just upgrade the lab immediately to Opera, but I thought getting the science for 1 or maybe 2 more turns might very well be worth it, and so instead I took the revolutionary idea, and then to be somewhat civil action efficient, I used the reserves before I lose it to the end of the age and make sure to already increase my population an additional time. So overall, I was still happy about my position. However, I have no H2 tactic yet, which could potentially be dangerous, especially if someone tries something with the military. At least I am prepared for H3 tactics, but I also have no defense card, so those are potentially some weaknesses that could get punished. And also maybe Vantablack with his Suez Canal and what could at some point just have an even stronger economy and just outpower me with that. So I have, I think, a strong position, but the others have quite some potential as well. Majondor seeds. Now I am not part of this strength event, but I was able to dodge some and win some already and making use out of my strength, which I was happy about. Now Majondor is the strongest, so he will win the Crusades, while Vantablack loses some culture. He finishes the ocean liner, uses it to increase his population, takes the cavalryman, goes for an urban growth upgrade to scientific method, and then takes the efficient upgrade. Then it's Vantablack's turn. He doesn't have enough resources to finish the Suez Canal, takes the reserves, develops the knights, takes the opera, maybe to have something to invest into when he wants to have some culture, maybe to also have Chaplain as a new leader, maybe to just be prepared for more leaders, and then He maybe develops the knights, could be indicating there's a tactic, that he has a tactic for them, maybe classic army or Napoleonic army or something. Then after his turn, h3 will start actually. We can maybe get the loss of the yellow tokens first. And maybe take a look at the overview. I, as said, was relatively happy about my position. I, together with Majondor, have the culture lead. With Bach, I soon might be in a position to get the culture lead for myself. However, Majondor has a civil action more, has maybe even more population with the ocean liner. I have a bit more resource production thanks to the pact and a bit more science production, so our economies are equal, but maybe Majondor's is a tiny bit better potentially, but he doesn't have as many resources saved up. Vantablack is looking worse for now, but he can still do some strong stuff to improve his economy even further, and with that could put him in a strong position. Lcfyx will now go maybe for some late coal upgrades, which will still be, I think, good for him. Has Maria, has the ability to increase his population a bunch of times, maybe has some military potential, especially if you should take the strategy here, but he is a bit behind in culture, and if his economy and the thing that he has ongoing with Maria is strong enough to make up for that, we will have to see. Of course, he got quite unlucky with not drawing any colony for Columbus. And he is also definitely not out of the game. He has many civil actions. Maria can do quite a lot of stuff, so he is still in the game, but I would consider him as having one of the weaker positions here. And now, overall, I was thinking that I have a potentially good position, but I have to be careful. I have no tactic, and the longer I have no tactic and not aiming towards copying any tactic, the more problematic things could get for me. Lcfyx succeeds, the immigration is revealed now. I and Majondor gain an additional population. Lcfyx will use Maria Theresa with the frugality, can increase his population 2 times, getting 2 science in culture, builds an H1 temple, builds a cannon using Maria's resources, takes the reserves, and doesn't even take the coal in hand. So here is playing it like A440, just not going for late coal upgrades, which I think can be fine. He has more science to work with, can maybe go into an H3 government form, can maybe go for either strategy or military theory, and with Maria Theresa at least he has some additional resources and can maybe also have some hope to get into an early oil. Now it is my turn. I considered pushing here, not because I kind of like to put those events into the deck. I think all of them are actually quite bad for me. Majondor having this navigation force and terrorism very likely just hitting me. But there's one H1 event left, and at the moment when I see it, before the immigration will be evaluated, I have no unhappy worker, and I thought there's at least a chance that a rebellion might be in there, so I thought maybe I could push it out. But when analyzing who played which event, I played the immigration. The one event that we saw was the Crusades. The 2 events, the one that are left in the Crusades, were played by Lcfyx and Vantablack. I thought maybe the Crusades would have made more sense for Lcfyx to play. Of course, it's not the most influential strength event maybe. Maybe Vantablack could have seeded this as well. And Lcfyx just built a theology, so that made me a bit afraid. But Vantablack himself probably didn't put a rebellion into the deck, so I was hoping that maybe it won't be in there, and I thought it's not that likely that it will be in there, and with that I was not willing to put any of those events into the deck. The refugees without having a tactic I also didn't want to put in there. So I don't see it. And first I thought about a turn with maybe building an opera, taking and developing the strategy, making sure that I'm a bit stronger, because if I don't get strategy, I'm stuck on 3 military actions. Every time I build some military, I don't get some draws. I still need a tactic, and with Bach I should just protect myself, and I think normally that would be a very strong turn. But out of those 2 cards that are revealed before my turn, there's one card that at the end I couldn't resist going for and also didn't want to leave to my opponents, and that's an early copy of Oil. Because the thing is, Majondor is in a position with the efficient upgrade that he could just take it and go for 2 upgrades. Vantablack has what? Despite being on coal, it is still extremely strong for him to maybe get into oil, and Lcfyx also could use an early oil very nicely, so it is strong for all of my opponents. and it's also quite strong for me, but it's also a bit risky. Of course I could play it somewhat safe, maybe taking it and taking the strategy, but that would feel somewhat expensive, and at the end I couldn't resist of just going for two very early oil upgrades, especially because I thought that there is actually some chance that that last H1 event, if it indeed was seeded by Vantablack, could actually be the new deposits out of the ones that could be still left in the deck. I don't remember what events were all available, but I went through them and I thought new deposits, maybe an event that Vantablack could have seeded, maybe keeping it in hand, then going for coal upgrades first, and then hoping to get just a nice boost with a new deposits being revealed. So I thought it's at least a possibility. Another reason why I didn't want to let the oil go through to one of my opponents is that I have seeded the economic progress, which also makes it even stronger for myself to get into oil here, and if I don't upgrade it now, it could also happen that the economic progress is revealed before my next turn, so I just thought it's too strong to go for those two upgrades here, but I was a bit worried then. Majondor could now get a strategy, maybe even communism revolution plus strategy. If he has a strong tactic, he soon can deploy enough population and start building some military. Lcfyx has Maria. Maybe if Majondor lets the strategy go through to him and he has an H2 or maybe even H3 war, if he has something like Napoleonic army tactic or mobile artillery, he can build a cannon, go for the strategy, declare war, and out of the sudden, with only having 3 military actions, I'm not in the best position to respond. So I felt a bit dangerous to miss out on a strategy, but I think that boost, getting that early, is just too strong with the economic progress coming. And so at the end I just went for those two upgrades and was willing to take the risk, and on long term the resources will also help me hopefully to build a lot of military. I keep some events that I can push, no tactic yet, but a defense card, and for now I actually have the strongest science production. That will stay the same with going maybe for some operas, we will see, but it's at least a potentially strong impact. Majondor gets that early communism, which is strong for him. Builds a farm. He didn't find a time maybe to develop the irrigation, which is now somewhat bad. I think it would be a lot better for him now to just upgrade a farm instead of having to build a new one for 2 resources. Especially because soon he needs to build another one. So here we can see how valuable it is to have irrigation with the ocean liner service. And then he has still 3 civil actions left and just takes the engineering, so he doesn't go for the strategy, which I was a bit worried about because it lets the strategy fall down to Lcfyx, who I thought could be in a position to go for a war if he has the right tactic in a war. But of course engineering can also end up being an extremely valuable technology for Majondor. Vantablack seeds, and I was extremely pleased to see that there are indeed the new deposits on top. So I get quite rewarded for my oil upgrades here. I also was quite a bit lucky that this was actually the last H1 event, and I get 13 additional resources out of my upgrades immediately. So now I will get new deposits and economic progress from very early oil, so ideal conditions almost. I only need the railroad, maybe James Watt to make it even better. Vantablack this turn can finish the Suez Canal and gets the inhabited territory too. That will help him a lot with his population. Then he plays the Wave of Nationalism, allowing him to build 2 knights, upgrades his last farm with the James Watt discount, also has upgraded his last mine to coal, has the classic army tactic, and has now 11 resource production, a solid economy, has the classic army tactic making him the strongest, and the opera in hand to produce some culture. But now I also have this extremely strong resource production, and I have Bach to produce some culture, so I felt like I probably have an advantage if I don't get punished by the military, which Vantablack with the Amici Castle now having a tactic is better prepared for, but at least I will be able to copy the classic army tactic, so him revealing it also made me relieve a little bit, because that is at least a tactic that I can work with. Lcfyx doesn't go for a war. I was very relieved to see that. He goes for the architecture, the strategy, develops the architecture to build another theology with a discount, also getting him out of corruption, takes the journalism interestingly. Now it is my turn. I didn't really want to push again at my turn. Impact of science is too uncertain, yet the other events still not that great. And this turn there was actually an interesting option available for me. Instead of developing the opera, I could have increased my population, built 2 riflemen, putting me 20 strength, leaving me with 17 resources, and then I could take and finish the Empire State Building. And when we take a look at the overview, I have just barely the most culture production, I have just barely the most science production, I have by far, or not even by that far, the most resource production, and I would have the most strength if I'm at 20 strength, so I could take and finish the Empire State Building for 36 culture, and thanks to the economic progress coming, I still have more than enough resources to work with afterwards. So that would put me quite a bit in the lead. Still a bit greedy, and it doesn't give me really that much culture, because alternatively I can start the culture production now with Bach, so I'm missing out on some culture production from him, making that play a bit weaker, and I can actually also go for even another oil upgrade, which might still be worth it with the economic progress coming. And so at the end I decided against it, hoping that I will just get another wonder that will offer me some fine points. Of course I can finish the Empire State Building and go for another wonder, but I also would leave myself with an unhappy worker, and there could be some events to punish that. And so overall I just felt like, I want to go maybe for the more conservative play, but it would have been a very cool move to go for the Empire State Building line here. But instead I built 2 operas, I increased my population, built only 1 rifleman, at least making that I'm not the weakest, and then I have just 6 resources left, which I will use to upgrade mine to oil. With the last civil action, I think I could do some different stuff. I could just play civil action, efficiently invade a revolutionary idea. Maybe I could take the movies, just having that to upgrade, to spend even more resources, and I will have a lot of resources. But I have already the operas. I mean, upgrading them could still be strong. I might get Chaplin, but I thought that with there being a second copy of movies, it's likely that Majondor will actually go for Chaplin here. And I still, I generally just thought in this position, my position is just quite strong now with that oil and Bach setup. But the biggest weakness for me is still if I should get hit by the military. And with that, I thought that it should be best for me to maybe just take the rockets here. Of course, I have the cannons already in hand, but the rockets just give me more strength, and I will have more than enough resources to put workers into rockets instead of cannons. So the rockets should be the better technology for me and just potentially increase my strength potential. And I, at the end, was willing to take it here. I draw 2 cards. The international tourism could be fine, not too strong, but it's early, so even with 2 wonders, there will be some culture accumulated. Majondor develops the engineering, and he wants to maybe follow up with the culture production, goes for Chaplin, and with the engineering can now build relatively cheap movies. Builds 1, builds 2, is now at 14 culture production, so has even more than I do, and is even a bit ahead in culture after his turn. Then uses the ocean liner service to increase his population 1 more time. Vantablack seeds and opens the politics of strength. I was happy that Majondor didn't get stronger, so I don't lose any draws. Draws could be quite strong for me here to maybe get an H3 tactic or some impacts. And Vantablack will now get some additional draws. Goes for the opera, goes for some culture reduction now as well, takes the computers, the civil service, and increases his population. While there would have been mechanized agriculture and oil, he doesn't have the most civil actions, and going for some upgrades now first could just be too much, and I think the computers are probably stronger for him to go for. Then it's Lcfyx turn, he seeds an impact into the deck, and the independence declaration is revealed. Majondor is weakest but doesn't have any colonies. Lcfyx gets now a second copy of oil and is able to go for 1 upgrade, so still wants to upgrade his resource production now, and it will be worthwhile for him because the last event in the deck is the economic progress, so he will now get some additional value out of that 1 upgrade. Also he copies the classic army tactic to go up to 21 strength, but doesn't use the resources of Maria this turn. Now it's my turn. I again don't want to push, but I can offer the international tourism. It will cancel the international trade agreement, but I will offer it to Majondor so that we will both gain 2 additional culture. Here it certainly played a bit of a part, having the tournament standings in mind. Otherwise offering to Vantablack could make more sense. But Vantablack's position should also not be underestimated. Einstein is coming down the row, he has those computers in hand, he has still the strong economy, he has drawn a lot of cards, could have some strong impacts. So yeah, it might be closer between Vantablack and Majondor than it looks culture-wise. And yeah, then at the end, I mean, both give me 2 culture, and with the tournament standings in mind, Majondor made more sense to offer to Majondor. Then I copy the classic army tactic at my turn, going up to 21 strength, missing some draws, so that's not ideal. I thought about just taking and developing the fundamentalism this turn. Maybe I should actually do it, because I think I should maybe just play it safe here. But Majondor is still in the culture race. Vantablack can maybe score a lot of culture with Einstein and improving his economy. And so I was at the end willing to not take it. But maybe I should actually just take it, especially with it me giving draws this turn. Instead, I made sure to, after building another opera, secure myself the internet as a wonder, which I, especially if I should get a multimedia or maybe professional sports and PR, be able to make it very strong. But even with the buildings that I'm having right now, it is at least somewhat solid, and I can take it now for cheap, while I might not be able to get the other wonders for cheap, and I don't have the most civil actions, so I was willing to take that wonder, making sure that I can score some big points with it at the end. And then with the last civil action, I don't think I need anything to take here, and so I just played the revolutionary idea to be civil action efficient. Keep the impact of science in the 2 colonization cards. I draw a war. Majondor takes the military theory, takes the revolutionary idea. I was a bit worried, might he trying something with the military now. He builds another farm to not have famine, develops the cavalryman, builds 2 cavalrymen, and copies the classic army tactic. Vantablack offers a military alliance to Lcfyx, but interestingly it actually gets rejected, which is of course a bit surprising, maybe a little bit weird. Of course, Lcfyx has Maria Theresa, so with having her, there is sometimes some benefit in actually being weaker, and maybe that was the reason why I rejected this, because if he goes up to 24 strength, then there's basically no chance that he gets the 3 Maria resources at his next turn, while now there could at least be a chance that maybe Vantablack gets stronger, but with how his turn is looking like, he can't easily deploy units into the military. It's maybe unlikely anyway. Maybe should have just taken the additional strength here. So maybe he had some other reasoning here, but it felt a little bit weird. Vantablack does a little bit of a turn order mistake here. He develops the computers before going for Einstein, so maybe played it a bit too quickly. And then can go for an upgrade and building an opera, going up to 9 culture production, while also having a solid amount of science production, can maybe develop the civil service at the next turn, also takes the endowment. Lcfyx gets the first copy of Air Forces, goes for Churchill, he might maybe still be able to do something with the military, takes the revolutionary idea, and then gets out of corruption and also uses the resource of Maria to build that cannon. Let's see if he has a fitting tactic for the unit spread that he's having, but he isn't revealing it yet. Maybe also is hoping to draw something here. At my turn, I don't really want to use my politics phase, and this turn I luckily got rewarded for not playing it completely safe and taking the fundamentalism at the turn before, but now I will be able to go for the fundamentalism. And yes, there is of course also in democracy, but I think I need the additional military actions and strength here, so that if someone tries something with the military, I'm prepared. It would be very bad if I have lots of resources to build a lot of unit, but actually only 3 military actions, and because of that can't defend against a war. So I think I should play it safe here. I developed this fundamentalism that also gives me an additional urban building limit, and now maybe I can put that alchemy into an opera, so going up to 22 culture production, which is quite strong, and I actually kept the 3rd lab from Gutenberg relatively long, but now it's time to maybe use Bach's ability and get a 4th opera going. With 4 civil actions left, I thought I certainly want to take the revolutionary idea, just so that I can easily go for air forces, maybe still some other stuff, maybe multimedia, maybe threatening some H3 tactics in case I don't get any air forces, and I then with the last civil action could take something else. Professional sports could be interesting with Pierre, but I have to be very careful about my civil actions. And also I can have a way to get out of corruption here, and that's actually by developing the cavalryman. If I go for 2 upgrades, I get out of corruption, I use my 3 military actions, and while I maybe don't really need it that much, it at least makes it look like I could have modern army or maybe the shock troops available, making me maybe look more threatening. Doing it now makes it maybe look like I have the tactic already instead of just trying to bluff me with being able to do that commitment. I think without getting the revolutionary idea, I wouldn't have been willing to do that commitment, as I then would like to keep myself with 12 science, but now I have that, and I can still go for air forces at the next turn if I want to, but I can also threaten those different tactics, especially the modern army would give me a lot of strength, so I felt like I'm relatively safe here, and who knows, if I get one of those tactics or the air forces, maybe I can even go myself for a war. I considered also Gandhi here, to be honest, just to be completely safe. Maybe I should do it, as I'm in a strong position, but I felt relatively safe now with the fundamentalism, so I felt like I should hopefully be fine without it, just with my many resources, and the economic progress is actually still not revealed. Also, I get quite lucky here, I actually draw the shock troops tactic after committing to the cavalryman, so now things are going quite smoothly for me in this game. Majondor opens the economic progress, I gain another 13 additional resources, also some additional food. Majondor builds a 3rd theater, takes the military build-up, the urban growth, the democracy interestingly, but can maybe potentially change the communism to democracy at some point. Is now at 20 culture production, and culture-wise we are still extremely close, and he still has a small lead. Vantablack this time offers the military alliance to me, and I'm willing to accept it. Of course, maybe it could even help him more than me, but it might also help me a lot, and I just accepted it. He goes for the Manhattan Project, goes for the civil service, that might help him getting out of corruption, builds an opera, goes for an upgrade, is just enough to get out of corruption, has 12 culture production, 13 science production, might be able to make the Manhattan Project actually fairly big here. Lcfyx has the positional army tactic, likely it's his last turn to war, so it's probably won't be happening, so he's going for the space flight here, building a journalism, just trying to get a bit of culture going, and then maybe at the next turn he's able to finish that space flight. Or he is able to finish the space flight if he doesn't get hit by an aggression or something. Now it's my turn. I'm not committing to the impact of science yet, even though with getting the multimedia it could actually turn out to be a playable impact, but I didn't want to commit to it yet, and so I go for the multimedia here. Actually, I realize now, I think we will maybe see at the end of my turn that I don't use my military action, so probably I should have tried an aggression against someone, yes. I think I missed out on that, to be honest. I go for the multimedia. It will just be very strong for my internet, and military-wise, I have to still be a bit careful. Majondor can go for the military theory, get lots of resources with the military build-up, build some units. He has even just enough science to go for military theory and air forces. 2 copies of air forces are still left in the deck. But I can just make it to leave myself with enough resource to go for 2 shock troops tactic, and I can threaten to go for 2 modern army tactics. I have 8 more strength for now, so I felt relatively safe, and just went for the multimedia, and even after that I will still have lots of resource to work with. I built 1, I built 2, destroying a lab, and I also go for Pierre here, as likely the next turn will be my last, so he will give me a bit of additional culture. If the next turn is not the last, maybe there's a chance Majondor or Vantablack could be trying something with the military. Both of them get the air forces and I don't, and I can at least declare the Olympic Games, but likely the age will end. There are not that many cards left, and so I just get a +2 culture here, and at the next turn I actually have just enough resources to finish the internet and build 2 multimedias, making it quite strong. I draw some cards. I actually draw the modern army tactic now. The impact of competition could at least be a seedable impact. Majondor opens the freedom of movement. He doesn't go for any war, and instead puts a cavalryman into the movies, putting him at 24 culture production, can then play the military build-up for the full 9 resources. builds 2 cavalrymen, takes the air forces, takes the patriotism, develops the military theory, takes the reserves, and is still on par in culture with me, but he won't get a wonder, which is a big downside for him. Vantablack seeds, the national bride is revealed. Majondor has actually more culture, now actually a bit significantly even, with me having elected BR, but of course I will get the Olympic Games and the big internet. And the age will end for certain now. Vantablack also didn't go for a war, so I don't get punished in that area, but I think I was also relatively safe. Vantablack goes for the multimedia, builds one. It's now 21 science production. He used the freedom of movement to put a coal mine into computers, so his his Manhattan project will end up being quite big actually. He then takes the satellites and the professional sports, so some cheap technologies for him to develop. Age 4 starts. Culture-wise, I and Majondor am the lead. Vantablack is somewhat behind, and Lcfyx even more behind, so for Lcfyx it isn't looking great here. He goes for the military theory, develops it, plays the patriotism, builds a cannon, reveals the entrenchments tactic. Maybe he could have put impact of strength in there, and then he finishes the space flight for 21 points, taking the tanks. I at my turn use Pierre for the Olympic Games, and then it's the question which impact do I want to see it. Impact of competition is a lot better against Vantablack, his competition is quite weak. But I could also see the impact of science to gain some points on Majondor, who is certainly quite a lot closer to me in culture. And to check that, if I can allow myself that, I needed to check how much Vantablack can potentially score, because he can actually score quite some points in his last turn. He can play the endowment for 4 points, he can develop 3 technologies with Einstein, he gets the Manhattan project for 21 points, he might be able to seed an impact, and he can build a religion, so get also 16 culture production. But Majondor doesn't get a wonder, so Vantablack might actually get closer to Majondor, and it's there's maybe still a chance that he could also overtake Majondor with the right impacts. But I still felt it's unlikely that he will be dangerous enough to overtake me, and for Majondor I probably also have good chances with now getting the internet, but maybe it could be a bit closer, and with that I at the end was willing to seed the impact of science into the deck here. I afterwards thought, oh, maybe I will regret this decision, because the last H2 event is actually quite a big impact, basically, like for Vantablack. He has 21 science production, so gets a lot of culture on the others, and who knows, maybe I do get punished for now actually putting an impact in there that might at the end benefit him over me, but only by +2 points as I get the culture for seeding. But I mean, I could have seeded a neutral impact and even a good one against him instead, so it was a bit of a small risk, but my position is still good. I can use the freedom of movement to put an oil mine into multimedia. I could then just, instead of disbanding the rifleman, increase my population, build a multimedia, finish the internet. With that I wouldn't have to disband something. The thing is, I have knowledge about impact of competition. Disbanding that doesn't harm my variety, doesn't harm my harmony. So it doesn't cost me anything apart from 2 for the impact of population. And I can make some other impacts better, because I have 1 civil action left after finishing the internet for 38 points, which is quite strong. Not that amazing even when you look at all of those buildings, but I have no I have a very synergizing leader, but not the building needed to make that leader synergizing with the internet. And so yeah, with having that many buildings, it's maybe a bit underwhelming even, but yeah, I don't have any synergy, and it's of course still 38 is quite a strong wonder. And then I have 1 civil action left, thanks to having disbanded that unit, meaning that I can now develop the rockets, disband a cavalryman, build 1, reveal the modern army tactic. That makes me stronger by 1 strength, compared to what I could have done when I had just finished the internet, and I could have put a rifleman and 2 cavalrymen and revealed the shock troops tactic. And it gives me +2 for variety, that maybe cancels off the -2 from the impact of population, but it also gives me +40 for the impact of tech, which could be a very strong impact for Vantablack, so maybe good also playing towards that impact now that I put the impact of science in and the popularization of science was revealed, so I felt like that should be the best move. Majondor seeds And I was extremely happy to see the impact of strength out. I gained plus 10 points. Vantablack would have overtaken me at his turn, so it gets revealed too early for him. And for Majondor could have had at least the option to overtake me. Now he doesn't do it. Maybe he would have done it. He now just goes for 3 farm upgrades, making it very much look like he seeded the impact of agriculture in there, develops the air forces, and builds an organized religion for even more culture production and for more points for the impact of architecture. Vantablack seeds, the impact of variety is revealed, so building those rockets actually paid off already by 2 points, and it's the best for Vantablack. He would have improved it even more this turn. He this turn builds a religion, plays the endowment for 4 points, develops 1, 2, 3 technologies, and with the masonry, with already having built a step, he can now finish the Manhattan project for 21 points, which is quite a big Manhattan project. But unluckily for him, impact of strength is already out, but I mean there would have been also only 1 card left, so it would have been a bit fortunate, but he could have maybe hoped that it will be in the next event deck. And yeah, with that, he is still only 13 points behind Majondor, and he will get now a stronger impact with the impact of Science, the only impact that I have seeded into the deck. So yeah, I have quite a big lead. Should be unlikely that one of my opponents has the chance to overtake me, but it could still be close between Vantablack and Majondor here. The first impact is the impact of Wonders. It's a better one for Vantablack, but only slightly compared to Majondor. It's actually the best for me. Impact of Balance is plus 12 for me, plus 14 for Majondor. It's a bit worse for Vantablack again. Then we have the impact of Agriculture. That's quite big for Majondor. He has made it quite big during his last turn. Vantablack is falling by 10 points behind. And then we have the impact of Progress. That's also a good one for Majondor. He is getting closer, so the impact of Science might still be very important for me in order to stay in front of him. Vantablack's impact of Progress is also quite strong. Nonetheless, he's falling 2 points behind Majondor. We have the impact of Science. That brings Vantablack a little bit back into the running, but he has still a big gap to overcome. I gain valuable 5 points against Majondor, and with the last impact, we have the impact of Industry. I have sadly lost 1 oil mine, but it's still the best impact for me, and for the orders relatively equal. Meaning at the end, I'm able to win the game, Majondor finishes second, Vantablack finishes third, and Lcfyx loses this game. And yeah, I think this game went extremely smoothly for me. Just the early game was a bit challenging maybe, and I had to choose the right path. Going for Iron Universitas worked then quite well, and then I think just things fell into the right place for me. The event order was nice for me quite often. I was able to win border conflict, uncertain borders, was part of the foray. I mean, I was also part at least of the 2 strongest for quite long, but I could have missed out on border conflict or uncertain borders potentially, and I yeah, was lucky to not lose Homer, which was a risk that I took, but I just with 1 card in the H1 deck remaining didn't lose Homer and could still play Gutenberg. And yeah, then I got Bach and Opera for both 1 civil action each. I got it early oil, the new deposits was the last event, and I got the value out of it. And I at the end didn't get punished by the military and could just very smoothly play this game to the end. And at the end won the game, Majondor keeping up with culture quite well. Still, Vantablack also making a nice comeback. As I said, his position shouldn't be underestimated. Still wasn't enough for him to overtake Majondor or to get any very close to me or something, but still showcasing how you can nicely score some points with such a big science setup, especially with this popularization of science, which of course was extremely big. And for Lcfyx, maybe things didn't go that well. He didn't draw a colony for Columbus. Maybe some other things didn't work out well for him as well. And at the end, he finishes with being quite a bit behind. Alright, that was the last game of the season, and with me being able to finish before Vantablack, if you remember what I said at the beginning, then it's already clear that I will win this group. So the outcome of the last game was not that relevant for me, but of course we will still interestingly take a look at how the last 4-player game finished and take a look at the final standings. And And we can see that in the final 4-player game where I wasn't involved, Wolves was able to win just barely against Vantablack, and Vantablack just finished barely before Lech, and Lech just also with not that much of a lead before Lcfyx. So that game turned out to be extremely close, only 11 points before the first placed and the last placed player, so quite an exciting game for those 4 players as finish of the season. And so Vantablack got a solid result out of that, almost was able to win it, so it was good that I managed to do my own part well and win the game, my last one that I needed. And yeah, with that we have the following standings. The season went quite well for me. I have 29 points, so that's quite a strong result. Won 5 out of my 7 games and finished 3rd in the 2 remaining ones. Vantablack played a very strong season. When we took a look at this group at the beginning, we saw a lot of strong names, and maybe he was some slight underdog. But yeah, he has shown he can compete on a very high level. Finishes 2nd, was my biggest contender for the 1st place. The end couldn't make it, was a bit behind, but yeah, if small things go a bit different, he certainly also could have won the group. Then it's quite close. Majondor Wolves actually having the same amount of points. We have a lot of 0.5 points because there were in total, I think, 3 ties in the season, which is also something that doesn't happen that often. Majondor and Wolves. Majondor seemingly winning the tiebreakers against Wolves, so he gets the bronze medal, but which in Master I guess isn't really worth anything, but still is at 3rd position, Wolves at 4th position. Marta Peschel manages to stay in the league with 15.5 position points, and Lech and Lcfyx will at the end get relegated. The season didn't go that well for Lcfyx, who scored 6.5 points at the end. And yeah, I'm of course extremely happy to finally made it back to Grandmaster. When I was in Grandmaster, played a lot of seasons in a row in that. Then I at some point got relegated, and I immediately got relegated again into Platinum. I even then didn't win my Platinum division, but got promoted again as the best 2nd place of the Platinum divisions. And then I had 1 or 2 seasons in Master where I didn't manage to, I think probably 2 seasons even, where I didn't manage to get a promotion, and maybe also only 1. And now I finally made it back to Grandmaster after now probably over a year, definitely over a year. So I'm extremely happy to play in Grandmaster again. I hope you're looking forward to it as well. We have to see if it collides with the World Championship. We have to see what I will show and what I will show completely. But I guess we will at least see some Grandmaster games next season. And speaking about the Grandmaster division, we can of course now also take a look how the highest division has finished and who has won the season at the end. And when we scroll down, we can see that Grotz managed to win his first Grandmaster division, his first international title. Well deserved. He, over the last months, over the last year, pulled off some very strong performances, very consistently finished with a high amount of points. But I think what he was missing still was a big title. He won the team championship together with Binky, but I think he didn't win International, Intermezzo, or Royal League or something like that yet. Didn't make it to the finals, to the World Championship or something. So something maybe in that category was still missing, but that he has achieved now. So a very big congratulations to him. It was very close, though, as we can see. Very close are the other players behind in points. It's even a tie with Cengiz, who loses the tiebreaker, who is still performing on a very high level. Cengiz, an old veteran player, joining again the International Championship some seasons ago, and every time being part of the title contenders. MWI also played a strong season, finishing 3rd. Arne also 19 points, very solid, finishing 4th. Funestus staying in the league with 16 points, and Daniel and Lambda are the 2 players that will get relegated. Alright, with that we are finished with taking a look at this International Championship season. I hope it was interesting for you to take a look at those games. I think we had some interesting games among them. And yeah, with that we are at the end of the video. Thanks for watching, have a nice time, and see you in the next video.